Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. We are now officially at the end of the college basketball season with the championship in the rear view. An incredible finish to an incredible season. But Phil, is there really an ending to the basketball season ever at this point?
Well, it's really interesting because I used to think that we could take a breath, reconnect, rejuvenate. And I have a concern. I really have a concern. I have a concern for coaches at all levels. I have a concern for coaches in all walks because you know that I think everybody out there in some way, shape, or form is coaching. All need to take a breath and truly reconnect by just for a moment walking away. They have to make the distinction between who they are and what they do. In today's environment, and I'm speaking on college basketball, but this is a societal issue for me. With today's environment and the calendar, it's virtually impossible for anybody to walk away. We're on go all the time. So in the basketball world, roster management, retention, building a roster, acquisitions, transfer portal negotiations, they consume every minute of every day for every coach at every level. We're headed for more and more burnout. In Philadelphia, the famous case of Dick Vermeil, that was when it first came into people's consciousness about burning out. And people aren't talking about it. But when experienced, expert coaches are walking away, that has to be part of it. Student athlete well-being is and needs to be more than a buzzword. And it is. I think we're doing a really nice job with student athlete well-being. We can do more and must do more so that we're doing the holistic approach to student athlete well-being. We've talked about it. Do they understand tax liabilities? Do they understand the needed charitable wing of their NIL pay for play money? Coaches' well-being must be factored in. This isn't just coaches, it's all of us. We have to seek balance in what we are doing. And remember, it's the way to make a living, and many times it's not the way to make a life. I'm concerned, but I believe that if we talk about it, we can get there because it is such a magnificent game and a spectacular profession. I want everybody in it to catch their breath and get rejuvenated because next year is going to be better than this year.
I think there's no greater example of just having to go 100 miles an hour at all times than, one example right here in our backyard with Philip. I texted him after the NCAA tournament. I was like, hey, what an incredible run for you guys. Take a moment to enjoy this with the family. He's like, I wish I could. I got to jump right back into the portal. And that was before all of the VCU stuff happened. And now you're like, the changeover from coaching change to then having to build a whole new roster from there. He probably hasn't even had a moment to sit down and just take a deep breath with his family yet because of just the amount of work that is done day in, day out.
Across the board.
Yeah.
I talk to multiple coaches a day, and what they ask for is time. I just need more time. I need more time. Remind me, because we're going to have a little bit of that at the end when we talk about somebody that I've been in touch with today. But before we get there, we have to do the Martelli Minute. Sponsored by Status Solutions. Status Solutions Network is committed to making a difference by providing Alicia Law compliant safety technology to schools through a grant of use, ensuring that financial barriers never stand between students and proper safety. Each community has the power to create real change. Learn more at statussolutions.com. Statussolutions.com. What are they doing? They're making our schools safer for our students, our children, our grandchildren. What a noble pursuit. The Martelli Minute on Instagram every morning, 6:30, a little bit late today.
Oh, no.
Phil_Martelli. Staying positive is your decision. It will change your life. Focus on what matters most as you navigate your way through this busier than necessary world. That screams to coaches, right? Focus on what matters most. I've always said this, it's about your team, not the team you could get. Focus on what matters most. Concentrate on working harder and smarter, not just working. Work harder and smarter, and the results will be greater than you could ever anticipate. And then stay committed to what you are doing and for whom you are doing it. Every one of our pursuits in life, we want to attach a person to that, a group of people. So stay committed to what you are doing and for whom you are doing it. And that one fits our guest.
I want to talk about where in the world is Phil Martelli? Where in the world is our guest? Because there may not be anyone
nobody
more all over the map in college hoops, especially this season. I mean, the meteoric rise.
No. Our guest is a force of nature. And I've tried to, as I was writing this up last night, I thought, there's one other force of nature that I've met. And there's not many people that would recognize it. But if you start whispering to people in the basketball world about Crazy George Shower played at Minnesota for Bill Musselman, not Eric Musselman, coach now, Bill Musselman. And what George was in charge of was the pregame routine, a ball handling routine, halftime, and he took that and made it a career. He has appeared, I'm going to be conservative and say Crazy George Shower probably did 50,000 ball handling shows everywhere, and he drove everywhere. He's done NBA arenas, and he was a true force of nature. When he walked in the room, the energy in that room changed. Our guest today is a force of nature. Basketball started in early November. It ended in early April. Our guest worked every single day, multiple platforms, if that's the right word. He was everywhere. But you know what he did? He brought enjoyment to the fans. He spotlighted the players, and he's built a trust with coaches and administrators. In a world where everybody's kind of like snipping behind each other's back, this guy changed the room that he walked into with his positivity. If you don't know John Fanta, you aren't trying, because he is everywhere. Meet him once, and you've got a friend for life. That is a remarkable, remarkable characteristic, and I am so delighted that he's chosen to join us as the season has ended, and he didn't just curl up and relax and anxious anticipation of his firstborn this spring. John, welcome to Make a Difference.
Well, thank you both for having me. What an introduction. I will not get a better introduction than that one from you right there, Coach. That was spectacular. And it is an appropriate name for a podcast because, Coach, you have made such a difference on so many people's lives. And I think at the end of the day, whatever we do, And whatever we're passionate in, and I'm very lucky this has never been a job for me. It's a passion lived out, and I get to do it as a job. I get to call these games. I get to cover these great players and coaches. And I'll tell you what, it's a joy to be with you because we both share that love for the game. And I think what you're doing is really special. What you and Jared are doing is awesome. And Jared, it's awesome to be with you too. But fellas, I love the game, and you know what? I love life. I know that sounds cliche or simple, but we get to do this thing called life one time. We get to do this thing called life one time, and I'm very passionate about my faith. But I think when you can get a chance to tell people stories to an audience, that is pretty special. It really is. And so it's awesome to be with you on Make a Difference.
So John, that's a great start. When you say tell other stories,
Yeah.
I need you to tell us your journey. How did you end up here and now the way you are, so ever present?
So I grew up on the west side of Cleveland. So I was born at Fairview Hospital in 1995. July 14th, 1995 is my birthday. So 30 is coming up here this summer. And I'm thrilled that I knock on wood as I say this, Friday all is healthy with my wife. One on, she's doing amazing. That I'll be able to look at my son as I turn 30. That's the best gift of all. But when you grow up on the west side of Cleveland, there's a couple of things in place, and I would say that they're not negotiable. Okay, there's three things. Number one, you are going to eat, breathe, sleep, die Browns, Indians, now Guardians, and Cavs. It's a mammoth sports town. Massive. I mean, in every single way. And I'll explain why it's a massive sports town in my number two reason. That's a non-negotiable. Number two, you are very much probably like it's almost, it's rare to not be, but you are into some sort of faith. There are churches at almost every corner. It is a west side of Cleveland. My mom's maiden name is Coughlin. So there's a huge Irish Catholic community. And my dad is Fanta, which is Czechoslovakian, Hungarian, but a huge, my father comes from, he was an altar boy growing up and very involved in the church. And his dad was the president of the Fathers Club and all that type of stuff. So to show you the value of intermixing, Easter Sunday in Cleveland coming up is a dream Sunday because the majority of people now are going to do the Easter Vigil Mass, and they're probably going to do brunch because the Cavs play game one of the Eastern Conference playoffs on Sunday. So I was just on the phone with my mom, and my mom's like, I don't know how we're going to get everything done. We got the game too. I'm like, well, Mom, here's how you're going to get it all done. And then you'll have time. Yeah, but everybody wants to watch the game. I'm like, of course, but people also know it's Easter and Easter comes first. It's the one time where our sports teams take a back seat. So those are the first two things. And then the third thing that I would say when you grow up in Northeast Ohio is this: treat people the right way. So my dad was a business owner in metal plating and finishing and equipment. He did a lot of hard jobs. Cold winters, guys, while I'm in the gym and it's nice and warm for the most part, not always when we were in the Prudential Center where they had the ice underneath, Phil, and it was pretty cold because of hockey.
And sparse crowds.
Yes, yeah, we need to see that figure pick up next season, and I think it will. I think it will. But you know what? While the gym was warm, my dad worked long hours in 20-degree weather during January and February in a warehouse, and it was not warm at all. And my mom was a teacher. She gave up teaching to raise her 4 kids. She's since gone back, and she works at the Ohio Lottery as a communications person for the state. So I had 2 parents who worked the 50 hours a week, not to mention raising their household. I'm the oldest of 4. So you learn work ethic. You learn how to treat people. You learn what it means to work, what it means to function daily, what it means to, I went to St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland, which is a Jesuit Catholic school in Cleveland, a good basketball program. They won the state championship now in 2024 under Coach Cam Joyce, who's the son of Drew Joyce. And before Cam was a guy by the name of Sean O'Toole. And Sean's a big-time figure in Northeast Ohio basketball. But for me, guys, I wanted to play sports. Believe it or not, I had a jump shot growing up, so I could play basketball. I actually would say it was my best sport growing up because I could shoot the ball. And I was smart enough to do some of the other things at a young age. But I didn't have the next level athleticism, as the subject matter would show, to keep that career going. So I pitched. I was a pitcher on the mound. I could pitch a little bit, but then and the reason why I could pitch was I knew I was smart enough to watch enough baseball that when you're in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, forget about the velocity, just throw strikes.
Throw strikes.
And so for a coach, I could go in there and I knew I wanted to throw strikes because I wanted to get outs. I didn't want to stay out there forever. We had places to be. And then for football, I played football the longest. So my dad was a left guard. So then I was a left guard. And I got done with my freshman year of football. And, I got done with my sophomore year of football, of high school football. And there was a broadcasting network at Ignatius, but they were doing streams and stuff. And my high school football coach, a guy by the name of Chuck Kyle, and for your listeners, look up the name Chuck Kyle and you'll see who I'm talking about. This guy's won 11 state championships in Ohio. He's one of the greatest high school football coaches ever, but not just in the state, ever. The guy's won everything and did it for decades. And Chuck called me into his office like he calls each of his 110, 115 players in for a 5-10 minute meeting at the end of the season. And he said, he goes, I love your passion, but you talk about the game a lot better than you play it. and it was the best advice that I could have gotten because my dad said, well, you gotta use your passion some other way. You can't just be coming home from school, having a snack and playing video games. Figure out a way to make yourself useful. So I went to the athletic director at the school. I said, do you have a broadcasting network? I met with the moderator of the club. And Phil, this is when you realize you have, I'm grateful. I say to people, it's a gift. Calling games is certainly a gift. There's no question about that. I tell people say, how do you remember that? Or, you've been sitting next to me before and I bring something up, and that's a God-given talent. But for me, what I'm most grateful for that God gave me the gift of is something that both my parents and my grandparents have. And that is, I am grateful that I'm able to relate with just about any human being when I'm in a room. So when I met with that broadcasting club moderator, he was 30 years older than me. But we talked about life for 2 hours. And now I look back at that and I say, I was 15 years old. That's not normal. Now I talk with a 15-year-old and it's hard to get through 10 minutes just by virtue of it's not easy. And I look back at that now and I say, the first thing he said to me was, I can't put you right on the air. Can you be a cameraman for the junior varsity broadcasts? And I said, absolutely. And that's what I tell people all the time. Just say yes. If given an opportunity to make a difference, saying no gives you no chance to make any difference. Saying yes gives you an opening. I was the JV basketball game cameraman. At halftime of the game, 3 weeks into the season, the play-by-play guy gets up and says, I'm really stressed. I'm running for student council. I can't do this anymore. Mid-game.
Wow.
The moderator turns to me and says, was he going to turn to a random student in the student section or the person who said yes to being the cameraman? The latter. He said, can you go on the air? I put the headset on. And ironically enough, when I got done with high school and I'm looking at colleges. 2 more say yeses. One, my college counselor realizes I'm going out to Fordham, Syracuse, St. John's, St. Bonaventure. I went through the St. Bonaventure TV truck. Had Mark Schmidt maybe given me a sweet NIL offer, I would have been. No, I'm just kidding. And my college counselor said, you should take a look at this Seton Hill University. And I looked at the brochure. I go, oh, it's Seton Hall. Now, there is a Seton Hill, but I said, it's Seton Hall. And she goes, oh, yeah. Take a look at Seton Hall. Well, instead of saying no, I said to my dad, we should take a look at this. We said yes to taking a look. And they said, look, we got Big East basketball. We've got different sports, and we're looking for people to get on the air. And some of the other schools, frankly, I loved them. College is what you make of it. But some of the other schools were telling me you got to wait till your junior year just to get on the air. And I'm like, ooh, I would struggle to not be stepping into that room. So between that and then a week on campus at Seton Hall, I met with the athletic department, the athletic communications staff. They said this. You're going to love this, Phil, because it comes full circle. They said, can you be a cameraman for a soccer game? I had never called soccer in my life. I said yes. The soccer game, I talked with my parents before the game. I'm like, look, I'm getting a chance. They're like, but wait a minute, you're not broadcasting? I'm like, no, not yet. I got to put in the time. Then hopefully I'll get on the air. The soccer game had been postponed today due to lightning, which is very rare for any soccer to get postponed. But the lightning was so bad they couldn't play the game. An hour before the game, nobody's there. 10 minutes before the game, the play-by-play guy got a flat tire, and the student radio crew that they could have tapped into their audio feed, they didn't have this game on their schedule, so they didn't have anybody there. So a guy, the head of the sports info department, who now is at St. John's, a guy by the name of Steve Dombrowski. See how this is such a small world? I still see Steve, but at the time he was at Seton Hall. He comes up to me. I am on camera. I'm running the camera. And he says, hey, I've listened to about 2 minutes of your football tape. Can you call this soccer game in 5 minutes? Now, I had never called soccer in my life, so it could have been easy to say back to him, I'm not really comfortable. I'll let you guys down. Instead, I looked at him and I said, I could do the World Cup right now. Hell yes. Give me that microphone. I got on the microphone. I did the game. And Phil, you know this name, Jimmy O'Donnell at Seton Hall.
Yes.
The game wrapped up. I got done with the game. It was a scoreless draw. Nothing happened, but I gave Seton Hall updates. I just did it with passion. And I knew when the game wrapped up and I signed off, I said, thanks for listening. That does it from Seton Hall. I looked down to my right, and Jimmy O'Donnell, who's been at the school for 30 some odd years at the time, is clapping, walks up to me and says, when can you be back? And I said what I say today, anytime you need me.
Wow. Here's the only problem with that, Jarrett. Jarrett's over here nodding because that's exactly what he did at Temple, by the way.
Pretty much, yeah, bit for bit.
But it just blew up this whole page of questions, John, because here was my next question.
Yeah,
I am zeroed in on this, but I have to go all the way back. Status Solutions is in Ohio, by the way.
yeah.
That's an Ohio company.
Yes, it is an Ohio company.
Terrific work with us. So I want to hone in on this one. People skills.
Yeah.
People skills. So I have an idea. How did these develop?
Yeah.
Was being on teams, was it your upbringing? People skills. You have extraordinary people skills. Many could learn from you on that in that area. How did you develop those?
Well, I think it's one coming from really good genes. My mom's dad was a guy by the name of John Coughlin. And if you talked with anybody in West Park still to this day, he died in 2020, not due to COVID. He was just in hospice. I actually got to spend when COVID was actually a blessing. You know, COVID could have been it was not good. but you had to try to make the most of that period if you could with your family. And so I got to spend the last 2+ months of life with him at hospice. I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. And when even to this day, guys, there are chairs at west side of Cleveland establishments, bars, that have his name ingrained in them. The bar or the restaurant put the plate on the chair to dedicate it to him because that's who he was. He wasn't some guy that went and had 70 drinks. He would sit down and have a conversation with people. He's the only guy I know that would bring donut holes into a bar at noon just to have a coffee and donut holes with whoever was there. Not a beer. It's funny in that way. But between that and then having a father who was a business owner, and being as involved as he was the athletic director, he was the coach. So I can remember early on, we're talking 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, practice would wrap up. We lived 3 minutes from our parish, St. Bernadette in Westlake. And so my dad we would get done with practice, football practice, right? And I'm playing in 5th grade. And, every team has the kid or 2 or 3 that has the 2 parents workaholic, and they're not going to be on time.
Yes.
We were the ones who would stay in the parking lot and make sure the kid got picked up. As a result, when the parent did show up, my dad wasn't the coach who gave the other parent hell. You know what he did? Hey, how are you? What's going on? Good to see you. How's this going? How's that going? And I think that's where you get learned concepts as a kid of like how to treat people and how to converse with people. My parents are the same way. My mom would go out to the mailbox and I would joke that it would take her 20 minutes to get back inside because she'd get out to the mailbox and somebody's driving by in our neighborhood and here we go. The conversation is off and running, but not in a nagging way, in a really positive, impactful way. So I learned, I think I was born with my parents would say that when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, while the kids were in the next room playing around, I'm going through Jim Thome and Manny Ramirez and Omar Vizquel's batting average and what they've done the last 10 games with the adults. So I thought it was so cool. Like, I've wanted to do this since I was 5, guys. Yes. The earliest memory I have is I'd watch a game for 10 minutes. I'd watch Joe Buck or Vern Lundquist or Al Michaels, and then I'd turn the game down and I'd start calling it myself. So I think it's just a combination of developed, but also just so my dad was one of 8 kids. My mom was one of 2. If they were invited somewhere, guys, by family first. My wife's the same way now. It's literally, number 1 is because she's a beautiful woman, an amazing woman. Number 2 is because she values family. And my dad's siblings, he was one of 8, would always joke like when an aunt or an uncle or a cousin would say, hey, why don't you come over for brunch? And they'd invite everybody. We were always there. Always. Always. And as a result, what happens when you're at gatherings and whatnot, and you're there often? You grow relationships, you grow conversation, you talk with people. And so I think it was that. It's just I came from a family that valued relationships and that values getting out to events and being active in the church. And something as simple as like this Holy Week is very near and dear to my heart. Every year we'd go to the Easter Vigil Mass at our church. 5 to 7 people get baptized. Phil, I'd never met these people. I don't know who they are. But my dad said, well, we're going to go to the event after and you're going to congratulate those people. My mom said the same thing because it's the right thing to do and you welcome them to our parish. How do you teach a kid how to be good with people? By putting them in situations where they're going to get to know people.
Yes.
John, I wanted to mention, when you speak about that, so much of it is family, and Phil can attest to this. I mean, I think for myself, I had a mother that could light up any room she walked into, a father that could really talk the paint off the walls. But beyond that, the biggest thing that I think really helped me grow, aside from family, I'm sure you can attest to this, is like you mentioned, just saying yes. I walked into Temple, Al Sports Updates, ESPN style Temple Sports Show, and just said yes to everything. And it gave you that confidence to kind of walk into any room, walk into any scene, and be able to introduce yourself to anyone, talk to anyone in that moment. And it helped me, I mean, throughout my broadcasting career thus far. And I feel like you can attest to that, right? It's just you learn to just, I can just go up and talk to anybody in any moment, because that's just simply what you have to do in this profession. And it kind of builds that confidence and that personality to really, like you said, just, it's like learned behavior, and through your parents, through your family, and then even through your profession, that allows you to really assimilate yourself to any scenario. I feel like, would you feel that?
Totally, Jared, and totally, Coach. And you both know this well. Sometimes you say yes, and you don't fully know how you're going to figure your way through it, because you're balancing a couple of different things, but you find a way. You find a way to get it done, and you find a way to do it, and the reward of that is what life is all about. I'm going to tell you, there's 2 yeses that I said in particular, really 3 in college, that led me down the pathway that I'm on now. Yes, number 1, right? Really 4. Yes, number 1 was I took an internship with the Lake County Captains. So they are the AA affiliate of the a single A affiliate of the Cleveland Indians. Now the Guardians. Yeah, they're the high A affiliate of the Guardians. It was 45 minutes from my house, so I didn't think about gas money, any of that. I didn't care. I took an internship to work out of their ticket office. And there you go, another way to engage with people, working on accounts, working in ticketing. And I was working with a sports team, and I got to see how that single A affiliate was doing things at their level, and also looking at a front office and simple things, putting the hot dogs together for campers, and doing all kinds of different tasks, working the team gift shop and whatnot. And I didn't realize, like, it was probably going to be a net negative for me financially, but I didn't care. I tell kids all the time, you're going to have to probably work for free at some point. Deal with it. It's okay. And I made a little bit of cash, but not much, certainly not enough to make up for how long. It was 45 minutes to and from, sometimes longer, every day for my summer. But it was worth every second. I'll never forget that. I worked on the ticket office. I got to learn how an organization was run. This past summer, the Captains had me to throw out the first pitch at their game. Full circle moment. Full circle of, like, you know what? We stayed close for a while. Can you throw out the first pitch? I would say absolutely. That was so cool. Number 2, I get offered an internship. Phil, you probably know this name, Howard Deneroff at Westwood One. So Howie is a legend, almost intimidating for a college sophomore, because I had heard so many good things about him. And I get offered an internship. That was one reason why I went to Seton Hall. They said, we got more internship opportunities than students. But it wasn't BS. They were correct. It's not a huge enrollment school, but I loved a place where everybody knew your name. Everybody knew everybody. And I'm sure that Jared, you can relate to that too with Temple and whatnot. There's a really community factor there. So I take the internship at Westwood One. Guys, it was long hours. It was really long hours, and I was balancing being a student, and I'm not going to lie to you, I was burned out a couple times. But I figured out a way to make it through. I wasn't perfect. I learned how to work. I learned what it would take. I learned what it would take to get into this thing. And it was almost like, I would call it conditioning. Like that internship in my sophomore year, that was my way of getting ready for the next level. I did an internship at CNBC. I didn't know crap about finance or dollars or the stock markets. I just see the green or the red. Somebody said to me, why the heck are you doing an internship at CNBC? You know why? so that I could confirm that it wasn't something that I wanted to do for a living? What if I had gone in there and loved it and fell in love with production of finance news? I was working on the NASDAQ. I got to be a part of their stock exchange live shows on CNBC. It was so cool. And I did some sports finance articles on CNBC.com. If you look up my name in CNBC, you'll probably see some things that I wrote about ticket revenue and television ratings and dollars and all that. All three of those internships prepared me for the big number 4. My junior year of college, I'm looking for a big internship for senior year or heading into my senior year. And I get a phone call from Pat Lyons, then the AD at Seton Hall, who says, hey, Fox is looking for an intern. It's in Los Angeles. Okay. What about living? What about travel? They can't cover that. I said, okay. Is it paid? Yeah, you'll get paid some. Okay. What do you think? You want to do it? If I hang up the phone and say I got to think about it, some other student could fly right in and take the opportunity. I say, call them back and you tell them I'm in. I pay my own way, right? Your podcast about stories. My parents got divorced after 24 years. Just wasn't working out for a variety of reasons. And I wasn't that shocked, but I have 3 younger siblings. They're dealing with that. So today, I do think there's a lot of people, I don't know if it was COVID, I don't know what it was, that something happens in life and it gives you an excuse in whatever you're doing in life. I look at it from this lens. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Find a way. Find another way. Life has its detours. It does. It has a lot of blessings, but it can bring its detours. So for me, it was, I'm not getting help here to fly out to LA. I've never been to Los Angeles. I've never been further west than probably Nebraska. Where am I going to live? Airbnb was relatively new at the time. So I booked a cheap Airbnb room in some place, and I booked a one-way ticket out to LA. When I walked into the room, guys, on one side of the room was a 60-year-old man from Africa named George. No joke, named George. And I walked up to George and I said, George, my name's John, and I'm going to intern at Fox this summer, and I'll be around, but I'll be running around, but it's very nice to meet you. You're on this side of the room, and I'm on this side. I said, what's your name? I'm George. I'm 60. I just got here from Africa, and I'm trying to make an American dream come true. And George looks at me and he goes, and in a lot of ways, it sounds like you are too.
Wow.
And George and I lived together for about 2 months. He was on one side of the room and I was on the other. And it felt like my Forrest Gump summer because I turned 21 and I was in Beverly Hills. And because when I got done with that summer, Phil and Jared, I said to myself, if I can do that, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing how it was all going to go down, having never been there, but I've got to work with Pete Rose and Chris Myers and Kevin Burkhardt and Rob Stone and Alexi Lawless and Landon Donovan and Frank Thomas and Dontrell Willis. I said to myself, now I'm ready, and I'm not going to take it for granted ever.
John, let's delve into your style. And I kind of bring this thing to what we're doing. And there's 2 things that stood out to me. So your style is to make a difference, The second thing on that is this. You and I had a tough game. And in talking to you and prepping for it, your quote, and I have it still on my phone, we will make this our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this style is not look at me. There are some in that world that it's look at me. It's a catchphrase. It's whatever to get people to look at them. You don't. You do it to make a difference for those players, their families, their coaches.
Yeah.
And you do treat it like a Super Bowl. Define that for us.
Well, there's somebody watching out there who's dedicating 2+ hours of their life to seeing the game. So for them in those 2 hours, it is their Super Bowl. It's all that matters. It's what they're watching. And what I have learned, and Phil, you've done a variety of games over the last year, somebody is always watching. And you don't even know who. You don't even know who half the time. You get a text from a random person. My brother's niece is on the team, or my son's best friend is on this team, or a GA on the staff. So for me, I don't want to say it's fear. It's more about honoring the game.
Mm-hmm.
When I get assigned a game, that is not a job. It is more so a privilege to be able to do that game. And that's how I've always looked at it. I do not care if it's a bye game, the biggest conference game, the conference tournament, an NCAA tournament game. Treat it with the integrity it deserves, because there are 10 players on that floor and 2 coaches on the sidelines who are trying like hell to win it. We better portray that on the show. If we don't, we're not doing the job of a broadcaster and of a storyteller. For me, it's a game. It's I'm a fan. We're all basketball fans. Now, there's a line that we have to keep up with objectivity. But when we're on the air, if we're not interested in it, or if we do it, if we mail it in, then what do we expect from the fans who are watching? What do we expect from the coaches who give us access? What do we expect from the players giving us access? We want them to look back and say, wow, they really did the right job. That builds trust. That builds energy about our relationship. That builds a positive vibe around everything that we're doing, where a team could win, a team could lose. I always say this, like, if there's a November, people say to me, wow, those bye games, you get through those. Some of them are 35-point blowouts. But you know what? I know people who coach at that level, and some of them are good friends of mine. And I know this.
Yes.
When
Yes.
they're on for those 2 hours, I want to make sure that whoever's watching learns about their school, learns about their program, learns about their journey as people, and that they're grinding, and that, Dan Hurley was once at St. Benedict's, and people didn't have their eyes on him nationally. Nate Oates was a high school coach a little over a decade ago, and a teacher. So you don't know where people can start. And that's probably one of the coolest parts of this, is I'm seeing, even early in my career, people that I knew 8 years ago that are now head coaches or ADs. It's probably the most rewarding part of the journey, is the relationships that you get to see these people grow in different capacities. But where does the energy come from? It comes from within. It comes organically. And the best honor that I've ever gotten is when somebody told me that hired me for some things. They were sitting with me and they said, when you call a game, people notice. And what I want them to know back is, I hope they know it's not because of me.
Yes.
It's because I want to make sure that you see we, as in all the people. I want to give the viewer something that they didn't know before about a team, a player, or a story within that roster. If we've done that on our show, does the score of the game impact whether or not we do that? The answer to that question is no. That's how I think when I'm doing a game.
Beautifully stated. The game. There's a lot to the business of the game today.
Yeah,
And it overwhelms.
it does.
How do you separate the business of the game with the beauty of the game?
Well, you have to tell the realities of certain situations, and there's a human element to that too. But for me, I look at it from this lens. There's so much negativity in our world. There's so much why not and no's and this is bad, that I want to say, well, why it's right or what the value is, or look at it from this angle, look at it from this lens. Because I just think life's too short to constantly be in that twirl. And this is why what you said at the top of your show is so true. We have to get healthier in our sport. And by that, I mean, it should not be a case where assistants are both looking at video for an NIT or an NCAA tournament game and also looking at the portal to
Preach.
figure out what they're going to
Preach.
do next.
Preach,
That's not
man.
right. That's not in the job description. It's not fair. It's not fair to your players. It's not. It's not fair to the rest of your staff, and it's certainly not fair to your family. When are you going to have time for them? When are you going to? I don't know how the wives do it. And I'm not a coach or a player. I'm a broadcaster, and I have to say to you guys, like I will be, and I'm very grateful for this. Very grateful for this. But I get a call 2 hours ago, and people are like, "Yeah, we've got a variety of games, different high school events and whatnot." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like this summer that we might use you for." I said, "Well, when do they start?" They go, "Oh, about a week from now." Now, I'm grateful for it, and I love doing it. I really do. I really, really do. I want that to be known. And I mean it when I say I love doing it. But I do think to myself, as all these events are happening, to the people who say, what do you do during the off season? There is none.
That's right.
There's no off season. The recruiting calendar's picking up. Then after after some of the recruiting revs up, it's the draft combine. It's the draft. The NBA playoffs are happening. I watch some of the playoff games. The NBA playoffs, things rev up and things get really interesting. The draft goes. The draft gets done. It's Peach Jam. It's Under Armour. It's Adidas. That wraps up. And now, last year, for the first time I did this, I did the basketball tournament, that alumni tournament. That goes 3 weeks. And then it's mid-August. And then you look up in September, people are back on campus, and here we go again. So
exactly my point.
We've got to get healthier. We got to give people a chance to breathe, and it's only right because life's too short, and you don't want to miss too many moments in your own life. And I feel like that right now is kind of being jeopardized. I know. Look at the Greg McDermott news of last week. Greg McDermott has a coach in waiting. Now, in what world, like 5-10 years ago, Phil, you even would have said that that's kind of crazy. But now I understand why. I get it. You want to build out a succession plan.
Right.
And when people,
continuity.
Yeah. And when people are like, well, when's he going to hang it up? Well, he's going to do what he told me in December. And he said, when I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I just want to go play golf. At least he built out a plan for what's next. A lot of coaches have just said, I can't do this anymore. And I don't blame him for that either. We need to get a clue that these types of things cannot continue to happen. We can't be seeing the game's greats get to 55 or 58 and say, I can't do this anymore. Not when they have 10, 15 years left in them, if they have enjoyment in it. So for me, the answer is there's not an easy answer to how do I get the positive. But I will say this. What I have found in my coverage, to bring it back full circle, is that when I'm able to get coaches and players on the record one-on-one during the NCAA tournament, that I would say is what gets people the most lured in, is that I can get Calipari in the back or Bill Self in the back or Matt Painter in the back and Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl. And I want to thank the coaches. You don't have to give this 29-year-old kid time, but I appreciate the fact that you trust me enough that I want to know about what your plan is. Give us a lens into your program. Give us a thought process of how you're handling all this and the stage of the Final Four and the stage of the tournament, because that's what people want to know. And it does show you right now in our media world, we're so into what's this guy's legacy? Rory McIlroy. Where's he rank all time? Where's he rank? Why can't we just say Rory McIlroy is one of the greatest and he cemented that on Sunday? That seems a lot easier and a lot healthier instead of, is he better than Phil? Is he better than Then Kuchar, is he? Where's he? Like, we have to get into this constant debate, and I think it kind of drives the bus on everything. And so for me, it's like, let's just appreciate the here and now and the greatness, and not get into the who's better, Jordan or LeBron. Like, cry me a river with that argument. I'm so tired of listening to it. They're both two of the best players ever. It depends on who you ask. And for me, it's like, let me give people what they were born
Yes.
watching, and that is the story. Tell the story. Don't cause drama.
John, the moments in time, Rory McIlroy collapsing on that green and sobbing into the green is a moment in time. Don't tell me about a career Grand Slam. Don't tell me it's been 12 years since he won a major. Tell me about that man at that moment in time. How many of us could ever have that overwhelming emotion? Second one, because it's close and it's personal for me, don't tell me about Connecticut's 12th women's championship. Tell me about the moment in time when Paige Beckers and Gino Auriemma embraced on the sideline.
Yep.
That's what it was. Moments in time is what we should be about.
100%. And, immediately we get into, is Gino done? Is coach going to, that's what people want to talk about. Just appreciate the now. I think that's what Coach Auriemma is doing. And I think Coach Auriemma is still driven as heck because he has Sarah Strong and all of us do not. And he has AZ Fudd and all of us do not. And I'm not here to speak for your best friend, but I do know this. It's human nature, because I could say this about him. I know that if I woke up in the morning and I knew I had those players on my team and I still felt healthy enough to do it, and I still could meet my wife for dinner at my Italian restaurant that I owned, which I don't own one, but I envy that he does, that I'd say, keep kicking a little bit. Why not rack up some more hardware? So I think that for me, like, we just, we've gotten away from, when we were growing up, Jared, I'm sure you can relate to this. We'd watch the same Sports Center episode 3 times. 3 times. It was taped. It was 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on summer break. And you'd wait for the live Sports Center for the latest news. But you watch the highlights. And you got them in your own head. So, like, now we're live all the time, but it's almost been dilution of, like, what we're going to talk about, to a point that it's like, what are we talking about? Let's take a step back sometimes. In college basketball, we get into this world. Well, they got to make the Sweet 16 to deem it a successful season. Oh, really? Do you know how hard it is to make a Sweet 16? There's 364 teams.
And the joy.
If 45 of them have that goal, what are we really doing here? It's supposed to be special, not, they got it. They got it. They had to get it. Then you don't appreciate it.
John, across the spectrum, you saw it all. You saw the bye games. You saw the women's game.
Yep.
You saw everything in San Antonio leading up to San Antonio. You were everywhere in Newark for the East Regional. I'm going to have to hold you to this number, though. Tell us 3 difference makers you saw in the sport of college basketball this year.
Walter Clayton, because he refused to lose. He had the heart of a champion. And he was absolutely phenomenal. And he led his team, and he willed his team, and he would not be denied. Absolutely spectacular story. And you know what I love, Phil? And you love this too? A guy that's known to have a knack for scoring and getting buckets.
Mm-hmm.
But when the game was on the line, he locked his opponent down defensively. He got it done defensively. He shut up people who said he doesn't know how to get a stop. And he said, I'm going to get the stop of the tournament. And so are my teammates. Florida beat teams at their own game. You don't just beat Houston at their game. And Florida did. So number one would be Walter Clayton. Number two is actually a bit ironic in a way because he didn't make a difference, in my humble opinion, in a win. He made the most difference in a loss, and that is John Shire. John Shire handled defeat with grace and class. John Shire could have gotten on his high horse and started ranting and raving and getting pissed off at everybody. And instead, how did John Shire handle that loss? With maturity beyond his years. I still believe that John will have a lot of good in store for him in his career. And I think he's got victories in the future. And I don't know of a guy who's done a better job replacing the guy than the job John has done with 89 wins in 3 years at the helm. Yes, his team unraveled. It's fair to say that. They had control of the game. It also takes two to tango, and Houston was relentless in their pursuit for a win in that game. And credit to Kelvin. I could only pick 3, but he'd be right there too because I thought the respect factor for him was huge. Who would be my third difference maker? My third difference maker, because I thought he had an effect on everybody this college basketball season, is not a player or a coach. It's Greg Gumbel. Greg Gumbel, may he rest in peace, was Selection Sunday. Sometimes you don't appreciate someone, unfortunately, until they're no longer with us anymore. And that's sad about life sometimes. But I think it teaches us a lesson. It teaches me a lesson, that's for sure. That Greg was larger than life in his presence on the tournament and had this magical effect on it. And it's not like he called a ton of college basketball during the season. He didn't. He would do a few studio. But for a guy who every year came on your television set for about 3 weeks, was there a guy that was more prepared, more energetic, more enthusiastic, more conversational with his people? He didn't work with Kenny and Charles Barkley and Clark much throughout the year, but he made it seem like he had worked with them for years and years and years. So I do want to shout out the late, great Greg Gumbel because I could feel his impact on this college basketball season. And there are countless other people, but those would be the 3 that I would pick.
Final question in this segment is always the same. From Cal to Gino to Tom Izzo to a baseball coach in Philadelphia, male baseball coach who battled breast cancer. We always end the segment with this question. You've answered it a lot, but it has another time to raise praise on those who have made a difference in your life, John. Who is that? Who's made the difference in your life?
It's such an amazing question. I say to people, you have a triangle in life, I think. I don't know, you've probably never heard that, but I look at it from this angle. So you have a triangle in your life. And I think that you that person, meaning you, are at the top of the triangle. And the triangle has their two legs off it and then a base. And a base. At the corners of the triangle. At the base are a bunch of people. And then up the triangle are a variety of people throughout the course of your life. But at the 2 corners, there are cornerstones. That's what I call them, of that triangle. All leading you to a pinnacle. And so for me, it's my dad, Jerry, and my grandfather, John. I'm named after my 2 grandfathers, John and Frank, John Francis. I lost my dad. He was 56, and he died on the job. Didn't have an accident. He just had a heart attack. And I have no regrets at all that I lost him too soon because I know where we stood. And I know that we talked, days before everything happened. And it happened right in the middle of the season, right? Right in the middle of college basketball season. I just so happened to have a week where this is rare, Phil. I didn't have any games on the schedule for a couple of days. So it's almost like God knew he needed to take him for some reason. I don't question my faith. But he also said, I'm going to help you out here a little bit, and you're not going to have to be chaotic. And when we got to the church when we got to the funeral home, because it was in the middle of the season, I've never seen anything like, and neither as a funeral director, who was one of my dad's best friends. He goes, I cannot believe the flowers. I can't believe the support from conferences, commissioners, coaches, programs. So when the funeral rolled around, we were about 5 minutes from the funeral starting. This is why I love college basketball. This is legitimately one of the biggest reasons why. Not just this reason, but there are others. But this sums up why I love it. And we're at the back of the church. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. St. John's was playing UConn at noon at the Garden. And I was thinking to myself, if my dad could have it his way, he'd want me at the Garden right now and not getting ready for a funeral mass because he knows he loved basketball. He came to any Big East tournament he could. But it was the first big Hurley-Patino showdown at MSG. So the Garden was going to be packed. It was going to be really theatrical. And I'm in the back of the church. And the one of the people at the church comes up to me and says, hey, we just got some flowers delivered. Is it okay if we put them up at the altar, or do you just want to keep them in your car? And I said, that's great. Who are they from? Well, they're from Coach Hurley and UConn men's basketball.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I thought to myself, that right there, in the intensity of competition, and sometimes the intensity in the back hallways of arenas, that sums up the love that I have for what I would call a college basketball family. But in the midst of being well raised by the people I just mentioned to you, the types of things that have gotten to happen to me in the world of college basketball don't occur without those people. And in that moment, that was something that resembled everything coming together in my life.
Mm-mm-mm. Jarrett, put it up there. Where's it go?
It's tough. We're running out of mountain space here, John. We've been trying to put together, maybe stealing from your friends over. Pardon my take a little bit. A Mount Rushmore of guests, and we're running out of space on the mountain because everybody pretty much blows us away each and every single week. And John, you've absolutely exceeded every expectation we had. That's for sure.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, and best of luck, man. Real world ahead.
Thank you, Coach. I'll see you at the Lapchick Award ceremony. Nobody deserves that more. Your love for the game has reflected on so many people, myself included. So thank you for being you, and I can't wait to share a broadcast with you because when we do that, it is a privilege. So much for 20 minutes. I'm sorry that I kept you both long, but I love this conversation.
Thank you,
John. Thank you. Yeah, we did tell him 20 minutes, and I knew that was once he got rolling. I was like, that is not going to be the case.
Terrific.
Luckily, he has a little bit of time here as he's prepping to be a father, which is
Really
incredibly
cool.
exciting for him. And oh man, that was unbelievable. As expected.
We didn't even get into all the places that he was, so we better do that with me.
Yeah. Well, I think now it's when it slows down for him a little bit, but unfortunately for you, it does not.
I had an unbelievable opportunity from Patty Martin, a dear friend. I was invited into Bonner, Monsignor Bonner, Prendergast High School, to speak to a class of seniors. It was about vocations, my vocation as a father, husband, grandfather. Uh, what fascinated me was there were 30 kids in the class. There wasn't a sound. There wasn't anybody that was slouched down. They were in tune with it. It was really neat. That night, I went to the Markward Club dinner where they give the Player of the Year in the Catholic League, the Interact Public League, Coach of the Year, Suburban, male, female. Joe Rabzinski, terrific player at North Catholic, LaSalle College at the time, coach in the Philadelphia Catholic League. He's now the president, taking over for a gentleman who left us too soon, Dennis Hill. 75 years, high school basketball awards. And I said it that night when I spoke, and I'll say it again. This club belongs in the Naismith Hall of Fame. They've made a difference to high school players and coaches in the Philadelphia area. We need to do what we can to get them into the Naismith Hall of Fame. Drove out to Lancaster, Pennsylvania Pupil Services Administrators. Chance to present to them in Lancaster. I got more than I gave. And then had an unusual late request. Ronald McDonald House of South Jersey was holding a casino night. And they invited me to be one of their TV celebrities. So Glenn Hurricane Schwartz, Keith Jones, not the Flyers Keith Jones, the broadcaster, Neil Hartman, a great night, casino night. You collect your winnings in tickets to then go to their auction. And I got a late request, and I was able to do that on Friday night.
I thought maybe they asked you to deal some blackjack or something.
No. I was not asked to do that. So I thank them. Look forward to continuing to connect with them. But then start to prep for this week. John brought it up, Holy Week. I think there's a lot of solemnness in the church with Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and then the celebration on Easter. I'm looking forward to that all week. But I will be attending the Phils game, and we've got to get squared away here. Can't get shut out twice in a weekend in St. Louis. Like, we need to get going. So I will be going to a Phils game. The Rotary Club of Delaware County has invited me to speak to them. Grade school, a grade school friend is now the head of the Rotary Club, Rick Flounders. We're going to make that happen. Going to take in some lunch this week with Angelo Cataldi, Kenny from the Dirty 30, the guys that went to the draft and then made a mark for themselves. And my man Barney Hughes is going to be there. Going to do a podcast with the Florida Coaches Association, Joe Willis, Coach to Coach. It's called Coach to Coach. Going to do that podcast. And then the police graduation that we talked about, Northwestern University Center for Public Safety. And then I want to finish with this. I had a chance, since this will come out on Wednesday, we tape on, is that what we are doing? We're taping?
Yes.
Is this called taping?
Yes.
So we were taping on Monday. And I got word through a radio broadcast that Nick Nurse would be staying on. And I sent Nick Nurse a note because Nick Nurse in the media area is fully engaged. He goes to 5th and 6th grade girls and watches their teams play to support the school where his children go. I sent him a note saying, I heard the good news, and I hope now that as you craft this team, that you get a playoff level team because you are a world champion. In a snap of a finger, he answered me. And that he wanted to connect, not about coaching, but it's just about being a community, being engaged in your community. That deserves mention, and I appreciate it and look forward to connecting with Nick Nurse, the neighbor, not Nick Nurse, the coach. That will be really cool. And then I have to admit, as I look at our guest list for the next stretch of time, we're going back to our roots. We started this with the idea of make a difference. Next week's guest is going to blow you away with the difference that they're making, only to be topped by the following week when we'll be at a baseball diamond making a difference. And then the following week, this is a true Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore of Philadelphians, all-time Philadelphians who have made a difference. Our guest 3 weeks from now is at the very, very top. So I'm excited that the season has ended. I'm excited about what we've done basically over this first 9 months. I'm excited for Philip and Jimmy at VCU. But we're going back to our roots. These next 3 weeks, we're truly going to make a difference, and we can't wait for you to join us.
And I have the perfect way for folks to jump in on that. Let's head over to pnjmakeadifference.com. It's where you can tell Phil your story and how he can help you make a difference, whether it's in the classroom, in the workplace, on the court, off the court, wherever that may be. That is how you can connect with Phil and move forward to help him make a difference in our communities. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. If you're looking for that Martelli Minute, every day, 6:30 a.m. at Phil_Martelli on Instagram. That's where you find it, folks. Another unbelievable episode in the books. The energy that John Fanta brought was just off the charts. I mean, you see it in his broadcasts, you see it in his various podcast performance appearances. Grateful enough to have him grace Make a Difference. I mean, the man is a star in the making in college basketball. No question about it. So we thank him for joining us. And Phil, busy week coming up, obviously, but I'm sure you're going to have those eyes on the Phils, as always.
I'll have my eyes on the Phils, but we want to make sure that everybody out there, and you especially, family time this week, a blessed Easter to everybody.
That's right. Happy Easter.